Hey, what's up, guys? This is Ricky V, and today you're listening to episode number 5 of the Vintage Muscle Podcast. And in this one, I have my good friend, Mr. Nelson Montana. How are you doing, Nelson?
Yo, Rick, what's going on?
And Nelson's here today to actually give us 7 tips. I might throw in a couple as well here and there, but 7 tips on just staying sexy as we get grown, as we get older. Nelson, for everybody out there that doesn't know, he has been around the bodybuilding industry for years. I remember being a kid when I was 18, 19, 20 years old, reading Nelson's articles on Testosterone Nation, on T Nation. He did writing for Biotest. He did writing back in the day for guys like Bill Phillips. He wrote for different magazines. He's definitely a guy who's been around the industry for a long time. And today, Nelson is quite a bit older now. I'm not going to blow your spot up with your age, Nelson. I'll leave it up to you to say that. But Nelson, and guy stays healthy. He's not on a bunch of prescription drugs like a lot of guys out there his age. He's going to give us some of those tips. So let's get started with something, Nelson. What do you have? What's the first tip?
I probably should put it last, but I'm going to put it first. I really do think that exercise is number one. The body's meant to move. And the body's meant to be strong. And the stronger you are, the healthier you are. And it just affects everything. It affects your mood. It affects the way you look. It affects your immunity. So exercise is a big one. I think people don't realize that, how important that is. And all sorts of exercise. I mean, I prefer weight training. When people talk about weight training, they tend to think it's just sort of powerlifting. Now, you could weight train in lots of ways. You could weight train in a cardio way. So, but that's basically it, to get out there. And I personally prefer training 5 days a week, and not long. It doesn't have to be hour-long workouts, but just staying active every day. And then outside of the gym, just having an active lifestyle. I would say that's number one.
I will agree with you on that, Nelson. I really, really think that physical training really will change your life. It'll change the person you are in and out, and just staying consistent as we get older, not falling off the track. That's really, I mean, I'm down for that. Now, let me give you a couple of questions about that. For example, 1, joints, obviously. What is the best way to stay training for a long time and take care of the joints? And 2, I've heard this mentioned here and there. I couldn't give you a very good exact source right now, but have you heard this argument out there that we're supposed to have a limited number of beats in the heart? Give me a little bit of feedback on those. The joints, and what about this limited heart rate?
That sounds like more of a romantic notion. There's no way of knowing that. There's no way of knowing, if we have a set amount. Look, everybody wears out to a certain degree. Nobody ever exercised and ate their way to be 200 years old. So things are going to wear out. I do think there are certain things you could do to beat the heart up. And if your heart rate in general is high, or if you strain it too much, I think that could probably take a few years off. So it's a combination of exercising where you're using your heart, but not overtaxing it. I mean, everything is damaging. To exercise by itself is damaging. People say like, oh, every bit of sunlight is damaging. Well, of course, but a little bit of sunlight is actually healthy. So it's that sort of thing. You want to do enough damaging things so your body builds up that resistance and gets stronger. And in regard to joints, I say just, again, don't beat them up. Don't do anything. At a certain age, you just can't train the way you did when you're 25. That's just all there is to it. The body can't handle. I know for me, I'm probably equally as strong as I was when I was maybe 30 years old. But on a move like squats, I'm just not as flexible. I'm stiff. So that's how you hurt yourself. It's not the strength. The fact that you're just a little tighter, a little stiffer, a little less mobility. So you got to play it smart. There's plenty of ways of exercising and getting the body to operate optimally without putting that excessive strain on your joints or your heart.
Awesome. What would be the second tip so that we can stay sexy as we get older?
Well, there's also a cosmetic component. And this is a relatively new thing for men. But there are little things you could do that could just freshen yourself up. And I think that when you see yourself looking fresh, you know how it goes. You look good, you feel good. You feel good, you look good. So things like that, whatever, if something's bugging you, it's like, wow, I got a real deep wrinkle there or something. Get some Botox, get whatever. I mean, you don't have to go crazy, but there are things I've gotten filler because I tend to get kind of droopy under my eyes a little bit. I have that right now, as a matter of fact. And you get a little filler and fills it in. It's cosmetic. But I tell you that it makes a difference to your physical well-being and your mental well-being. Because when you look in the mirror and you feel you look good, you got some game, you got some, got some mojo. If you look in the mirror and you're like, oh fuck, man, here I go again, then it's a drag and it brings you down. So I would say the cosmetic aspect, that's everything. Hair, clothes, just whatever it takes to cosmetically look good, I think is a big factor in how you present yourself.
Yeah, and it emotionally helps you want to take care of yourself. When you look good,
right,
you want to continue to taking care of yourself. It puts you on
right.
that track. That's incredible. That's great. Number 3.
Nutrition, of course. And I have to say, I'm not fanatical with nutrition. I have my sweet tooth, and I love pizza. I love my fajitas. I love, this stuff that isn't considered health food per se, but food is food. And as long as you have that balance of, protein, carbs, and good fats and fiber, and you emphasize protein, I've always believed in emphasizing protein. And just don't eat too much. I think that's the main thing. Most people just eat too many calories. And if you keep that and you keep just junk to a minimum, when you're eating junk, people know they're eating crap. You keep that to a real minimum, and that's it. Again, you can't eat yourself into being in great shape. Jack LaLanne said something to me once. I interviewed him years ago, and it was a great interview, actually. And he said, you train a racehorse to be a champion by training him, not by feeding him well. So that's always been my thing. Exercise is more important than nutrition. Nutrition is just the fuel. So be smart with the fuel. Eat good food and don't eat too much unless you're trying to bulk, in which case you do have to eat more. But other than that, I think diet is pretty simple.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, just dropping simple sugars from your diet.
Yeah.
That alone is going to make a huge difference. Stop it with all the dough, the pizza dough, the breads, cut that out. And if you want to have something sweet, have some fruit. Fruit's always pretty cool. Obviously, moderation.
It's tough. I mean, and look, you can look at any food. Fructose increases homocysteine. So there was that movie out years ago, Super Size Me, where they were trying to make McDonald's out to be this horrible food. Meanwhile, the guy was overeating and sedentary. You could overeat anything and be sedentary, and it's not healthy. I think you can have a little treat now and then, but it's real easy. As you know, once you start eating carbs and sweets, you start craving more of it, and that starts the cycle of just eating too much of it. But it takes a little willpower. I had, a sweet, I'm not going to have any sweets for the rest of the day. So I think if you could do that and maintain that lifestyle, I think that's a pretty good way to follow.
And you said a really good one, eat less. And I think that's something that most of us could really do, just eat less. There was a time in my life where I used to eat a lot more calories than I do now. And my body needed every single one of those calories. Now I eat less calories that I did before when I was at the same weight, and my body maintains. Your metabolism will sort of flex a little bit with whether you're having more or less calories. It'll adjust to keep you in homeostasis, and if you're training. But I think that just getting your body accustomed to running on just 10%, 20% less calories than you normally would to maintain that weight. And you do that through diet and proper eating and stuff. I think, and there is some good clinical evidence out there that lower caloric lifestyle, you will live longer, correct?
That is true, but it is I think there's a yin and yang to everything. You could take anything that's a good idea and take it too far. We see that in life. We see that in politics. Well, that's a good idea, but if you take it too far, well, it's not working. You got to accept it's not working. Something, and we've talked about that. Rick and I have gone back and forth about the fasting thing. I do believe that intermittent fasting now and then is not a bad idea, but I think of it in a far more conservative way. I'm talking about skipping breakfast and maybe going a few hours extra, and not feeling that you have to finish that big plate of food. You know, people think like, I don't want to waste it. Well, you already bought it. Whether you eat it or not, it's not wasted. You have to be okay with just like letting, you know, that's it. I had enough. I'll throw the rest away, or I'm going to skip breakfast today. I think that is good. I do believe that the extended fasts aren't particularly beneficial, but you know, to each his own with that sort of thing.
You know, funny thing, we're recording this podcast now at 8 p.m. today, and I haven't had any food yet. Had a lot of things going on today, and I forgot. I'm so accustomed now to the fasting lifestyle. I no longer get hungry. I have to remind myself to eat. It's a good thing we just talked about it. I gotta get some food in me before the day ends. I just don't.
Yeah, you can condition yourself. I mean, everybody has felt this. Oh, I'm starving, and then they get distracted. They're on the phone. They realize an hour just passed, and they're not hungry.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't get those hunger pains. So let's move on, my man. Number 4.
Number 4, what else in terms of longevity? Well, supplementation, definitely supplementation. I think there's so much stuff. People say, what do you take? And I say, if you're not really familiar with supplementation, that's a career in itself, studying that. But if nothing else, take a good multiple vitamin pill. You know, I think having some protein powder is a good way to get a quick, high protein, nutrient dense meal. None of it is a miracle, but I think overall, when you're taking everything that helps enhance the body's health, to me, I look at it like every day is a chance to take something to make me healthier. So I take my basic vitamins, and then I'll take some different things. And I'm talking about dozens of different nutrients and enzymes and cofactors and adaptogens that I think it adds up. And when people say, oh, what's all that stuff do? You get enough nutrition from food. I just say, like, how do I look? You know, I know that I look 10, 20 years younger than some people and my age. And so I absolutely believe in that. I believe in feeding and fueling the body. And you can't do it with just food. You absolutely need supplements. You can't get, you know, enough vitamin C from just vitamin C foods that the body works optimally. So why the hell not? It's the same exact molecule. The body recognizes a vitamin C molecule, whether it's from an orange or from came from a laboratory. It's the same molecule, and it does the same thing. It's like a key. The key goes into a slot. You know it's going to work. And it doesn't matter if it's the original key. You make a copy, it's the same thing. That's the way it is with nutrients. So I'm definitely big on that. I think that with proper supplementation, you can make some tremendous gains. And I think a lot of people overlook that, especially in these days where, you know, steroids are so prevalent. They're like, yeah, fuck the nutrients, fuck the supplements. I'm just going to take some tren, you know. And, you know, I think that's where they're going off base, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but a balanced diet will not any longer give you all of the vitamins and minerals and essential things you need. It's just our soil is depleted. Most of these produce we get our hands on are Franken food. A lot of the meats we get our hands on, those animals haven't been eating with their regular diets have been. Our food supply has become more of just calories and very little in the way of nutrition now. You know, the soil has to be injected with shots of ammonia just to get the next crop yield coming out of the soil. There was a long time before we developed a fast and cheap way to make ammonia. We used to take bird guano. That's what it's called, right? It's an American law that if you were in a ship and you found an island full of bird poop, you know, these bird poop islands, you could claim it as American soil, because we would send our ships there, break it down, take all this bird poop that would form mountains, and then we take it and we use it to pump it into our soil. That was the first way we got ammonia into the soil to reduce some of the industrial farming we're doing. And now there's just a machine. It's got these sprayers. It just pumps it right into the oil. It shoots it like shooting juice into the soil. It's just empty calories. A lot of it is not what it used to be. Guys our age remember Popeye. Remember Popeye would have the spinach and he gets strong as fuck. And I did a whole video about this for the Vintage Muscle YouTube channel. The spinach contain a ton of testosterone, ectosterone. It's a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
The
Well, I
spinach
think
would use
back
that.
then, well, they weren't aware of it back then. I think the reason why Popeye,
People just knew spinach made you strong as fuck. It made you feel good.
well,
They didn't know
spinach also
why.
has iron, and I think why Popeye was promoted. This is going way back, like maybe even World War One, where meat wasn't available, so they wanted to encourage people to eat spinach because it had iron,
I
so
tell
they
you
wouldn't
what
become
though,
anemic.
that real old school spinach, the organic stuff, man.
Yeah.
Tons of. I mean, you would feel great after that. And yeah, it's time to really start supplementing. You're just not going to find. You're not going to get everything you need out of regular foods. You have to add it. You have to add it into your body. You have to add it via
Yeah. Why
supplements,
not? I
capsules.
mean, it's available. It's foolish not to take advantage. It's such a great advantage. We can make ourselves so much healthier than people ever thought would be possible, and people are just letting it sit on the shelves. It's stupid.
There are 13 essential vitamins that we've recognized that our bodies cannot manufacture. Our bodies cannot synthesize these vitamins. And unless you're getting them from your food, like B12, like vitamin C, like, I mean, lemurs can still make vitamin C in their body. Their earlier ancestors, they branched off our ancestry tree a long time ago. We no longer can. We lost that gene to be able to make our own vitamin C. That's why sailors would get on a ship and they didn't bring enough vitamin C. Everybody would get the scurvy, right?
Yeah.
So all of these, there are 13 essential vitamins that your body cannot synthesize anymore. Not so unless you're getting it from your foods, you're just not getting enough of it. And yeah, you are correct, Nelson. You said a lot of guys just throw more anabolics, more whatever the situation. But in actuality, using anabolic products like Trembolone, like the Vintage Muscle product line, you're using these anabolic androgenic hormones, but you might be lacking in simple things like vitamin B12, vitamin B's, vitamin D's, vitamin E. You're lacking in these essential vitamins. You're just not going to get all of your money's worth. You're not going to get everything.
As strong as its weakest link. And
You're
then
not
they're
going to get
finding out a
everything out
lot
of
more
that cycle.
stuff. Even something as simple as niacin, they're finding it's a lot more important than they realize. That niacin does really great things. The problem with taking a high dose of niacin is, I don't know if you've ever done this, you get really flushed.
Yes. I get that from, I used to make a pre-workout, and the niacin would float to the top during shipping because it's such a light molecule. And if you didn't shake it up really nice before you took it, and you took a big scoop of it, you get a nice shot of niacin with the first dose. Makes you turn red. I mean,
niacin, yeah, you're like, am I dying over here?
Yeah,
well, now they have you could get time released niacin, so it doesn't hit you so hard.
Niacin is incredible.
Yeah, little things like this, and now there's niacinamide. I mean, there are always new advancements, and I'm always kind of staying out for that. Sometimes advancements aren't as great as you hope they are, and other times it's like, wow, this is an advantage, so I want to use it.
If you do need a couple of different amino acids, proteins, in order for your body to be able to make that growth hormone, but it needs niacin. You need niacin. Yeah. Without the niacin in there, you're not producing enough or just optimal levels of growth hormone in your body. If you're deficient in niacin, it's just the way it is, right?
Yeah. So yeah, all of this is all very important. And well, if I could say it, Rick and I put together a formula that is somewhere out there, I don't know where anymore, called N2 Guard. And the whole concept of that is that you get a lot of nutrients that you normally don't get in other in your standard one-a-days, and they're very helpful. I mean, people notice a difference. There are nutrients that can help control your blood pressure. There are nutrients that can help control your cholesterol level. There are so many. I mean, people are on all these medications. My doc asked me, he goes, "What, blood pressure medicine are you on? What cholesterol medicine are you on?" I tell him I'm not on any. I don't need them. I exercise and I take supplements. And if you do that and you're not overweight and you don't do something stupid like smoke or drink too much, your cholesterol should be fine. But, meanwhile, millions of people are on all this crappy medicine. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm going to throw in a pump for Organa. This is the product by Vintage Muscle, the podcast sponsors, basically the owners of the podcast. So Vintage Muscle Organa contains vitamin A, vitamin D3, vitamin E, thiamine, niacin, vitamin B6, folate, B12, biotin, panthenic acid, and NAC, N-acetylcysteine, as well as nicotinamide. I can't even pronounce that, but pretty much all of those are essential. Your body cannot make them. And Organa is just a great little product.
That sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah, you should take along with your Vintage Muscle Stack. If you're on TRT, if you're just taking the juice, if you're natural, just make sure that you're addressing deficiencies. You're just not going to grow. Your body's not going to give you optimal growth, optimal muscle growth if you are deficient in some or maybe a couple of these vitamins. It's just the way it is. Yeah. And your body can't make them. You have to get them through food, right?
That's it. Yeah, no, and every day. I mean, people don't realize that even the B complex, you need to take in all the B complex for the Bs to work. You could take some extra B12, but I always thought it was kind of silly for people to take B12 shots because, you know, it's thousands of times more than you need. And the thing with B vitamins, they're out of your system in like 48 hours. So I make it a point to always make sure I have a lot of B vitamins every single day, because they don't hold over. You know, vitamin C doesn't stay in your body very long. So again, every day is an opportunity to get strong, to get healthier. So why not use it?
B12 is one of those vitamins that your body does hold on to for a little while. It does hold on to it. Matter of fact, you release some of it, you excrete some of it in the bile in your liver, and then it gets picked, and some of it, not all of it, gets picked back up in your small intestine. But unless you are actually ingested and continue to ingest it, this excretion process will eliminate the B12 out of your system. And man, I'm telling you, you're going to feel run down. On the other hand, B12 is one of those vitamins that I find that when I take a high enough amount of it, I get a little buzz off of it. Like I wouldn't call it a caffeine buzz, but I definitely feel a little bit of a brain buzz when I just after
it's the main B12. Yeah, that's the main nutrient, providing energy and to all, you know, to everything, to the nervous system, to the muscular system, to, you know, circulatory system. Having a lot of B12, I believe in that. Even if it is thousands times more than you need, it doesn't matter. Whatever is excess, you pee out anyway, so it's not going to hurt you. So why not take a hefty dose of it and get the benefits?
So let me make sure that I didn't forget here. We're both old. We're up to number 5, right?
I think so. I don't know.
All right, let's just call it number 5.
Oh, we're just doing number 5? Yeah. I'll tell you another thing I think is a big factor is attitude. You gotta, this is a tough one to say. I think you have to stay abreast of what's happening, but as you get older, you also have to be comfortable in your skin. I think it's so lame when I see these, you know, 50, 60-year-old guys trying to act like they're, you know, 25. You know, that's just stupid. That's pointless. But at the same time, I know a lot of people like in their 50s, and I hear them talk and they sound like old people, you know? And I think that's kind of weird. I was just watching William Shatner. William Shatner is 92 years old. Looks fantastic. You know, not somebody you would think of as a bodybuilding icon, but he's obviously very healthy and he's sharp. And I think that, having that love of life and keeping interested in things and having something to work towards, that is a big part of staying youthful. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to be up on every pop culture, you know, thing that comes down the pike, but you have to be open to new things, even if it's just learning on your own terms. Even if you want to just go back and, you know, read some classic novels, keep the brain engaged. And I think that really makes a factor in staying youthful.
You're lumping up attitude, emotional with just exercising the brain. You think they both deserve to be in the same category? Because exercising the brain and having a good attitude are to me, a little bit two different things. What do you think?
They are two different, but I do think they go hand in hand. And when I say a positive attitude, you don't have to walk around just being Pollyanna about everything. Like, oh, isn't everything wonderful? I always say people who think that everything is great, they just don't accept like what assholes they are. You know, we all have our insecurity. We all fuck up here and there. But and I could get bummed out over a lot of things. I mean, the world in general. But you don't want to give into that, I mean, you probably know there are people, I know people who haven't left their house. They're still afraid of COVID.
Yeah.
It's like, you got to get out in the world. Look, I hate flying. Here's a perfect example. I hate flying, and I would often drive. Now driving is getting to be a pain in the ass. I'm just like, fuck it, dude. Just get your ass on the plane and do it, And you see places, you go places, you have experiences that you have to do. I don't understand these people. They're in their 50s and they talk about someday I'm going to go to whatever, Italy. I'm like, what the fuck are you waiting for? If you haven't done it by now, you may, and people will do that. People will go to their grave and never venture 20 miles from where they live. And I think that's so sad.
There's a meme, a little meme. It's a guy in Venice, right? The guys who push the gondola in Venice. Yeah. He's just kind of laughing. They're taking a picture, and just two old folks sleeping. They're sleeping on the gondola. And I think the caption goes something like, don't wait until you're retired to do the things you want. Like, you'll be falling asleep.
You're too fucking tired to do anything.
Yeah. I think, mental attitude and just treating life with gratitude, I think it's one of the best things anyone can do, man. It's just every day, just be grateful for what you have. Every day, be grateful for everything you got going on. Be grateful for your problems. Be grateful for everything that's happening in your life, the good, the bad, everything. I get bogged down too, man. We all do, with just thinking about life, the next move, what's going to happen, the future. Yeah, I'm one of those guys. I suffer from a good level of anxiety. I'm one of those folks. But I'll tell you what, man, I just got over the flu. I didn't want to say the C word because the algorithm, they're not watching, here's this stuff. Anyway, I just got over the flu not too long ago, just a couple of months ago. I made a small video about Organa helping me get over it. And
that's good.
I got to tell you something, man. This darn flu, bro, it brought me, it centered me. It brought me back to my center, to what I should be thinking about, to what I should be concerned about. I've had all these things in my mind, all these things going on, different things. I'll talk to you about some of it, Nelson, in private. And then I go and get the flu. I take a home test, boom, positive. And it's only like the first day of it. And I had already had it a couple of years ago. And it just brought everything into context.
Yeah.
I just realized, like, wait a minute, I'm worried about all this other shit. Who gives a fuck?
And well,
that's health.
Exactly it, right?
My health could be. And then for like about 24, 48 hours that I had this thing, I'm sitting there going like, wow, I spent so much time worrying about all this other nonsensical, just bullshit that I could resolve, just numbers on a piece of paper. Really, at the end of the day, is what most of us worry about. Just numbers on a fucking piece of paper.
Let's say you wound up really ill and you were lying in a hospital bed with a ventilator. What would you give to have the day you're having right now?
Absolutely. Right? A healthy man has 1,000 wishes. A sick man only has one.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, well, this is it. I mean, this is the crux of the whole thing. Dan Laurie, health is wealth. I mean, health is if you're healthy, and this is another thing, I think that goes hand in hand with the longevity thing. If you look good, and you can look good at any age. I'm not talking, you don't have to look like you're 20, but if you look good, damn, man, you put on a t-shirt and a pair of jeans and women will be checking you out. And that again gives somebody a sense of pride, as they gives them their vibe. So many people, once they get into their 40s, man, late 40s, they just give up. And it's sad because this is going back to what you were saying before also. I mean, you got to look at life like there's a lot of life ahead. You got to look at it like that. You can't look at it like, well, I'm winding it up. I had a good run, whatever. No, man, it's not over. It ain't over until they close that box. So you got to subdue shit. So there's shit to do. So look forward to life that way. What can I get better at? What can I do better? What can I, where can I improve? What's something that I can look forward to that's exciting? And when you do that, I think that's a big part of staying young.
Mental attitude goes a long way, man. Just that mental attitude, that mindset really goes a long way. My grandfather on my mother's side of the family, healthy as a rock, man. He's had a little prostate issue here, things there, but everything, cholesterol, joints. I mean, he's just fucking. He just had to little concerns with the prostate. Guy's laughing every day. He laughs every
Yeah,
day.
that's great.
Laughs even at his own jokes. He was for a short span of time. He was a wealthy man for a very short span of time, and then he sort of lost it all. When he lost it all, he was already older, too old to start over, and he's maintained good health and vitality, just literally laughing, even if it's just by himself, even if it's just laughing at something the newsman said on the TV. The dude chuckles and laughs every single day, and he's healthy as a rock. And I talked to him quite a bit, and I think him and I both came to the conclusion that he's just happy and with life, and that's kept him healthy, really healthy.
Well, yeah, well, avoiding stress, which we know is just really hard to do. But it's like you were saying before, you get to a point like, what am I worried about? If you wound up sick or dead or maimed, and what were you worried about? What was the bullshit that was the big concern? So much of it is just waste. I go back to the old Charles I have the original Charles Atlas course, and actually a lot of that course is sort of this almost new age advice. And he even says at the end of the day, you're sitting and you're pondering and you're running all this crap through your head. It's like the day's over. There'll be a new day tomorrow. Let it go. Clear your mind. Allow for new, fresh, positive thoughts to come in. And it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. People kill themselves. I mean, why is the age limit, lifespan in America lower than places that have an unhealthier lifestyle? In Europe, they're smoking at breakfast. They're eating pastry for breakfast, and they're drinking wine or not, and they're living to be 88. And guys in America are dropping dead at 65. It's stress. So get rid of the stress. That is definitely a big one.
No, sometimes it's cheaper to keep her. Just try to I made a joke just to get rid of the stress, and I said sometimes it's cheaper to keep her.
Yeah. Well.
So
that could be a source of stress. That is true. Well, sometimes guys get older. You're just like, yeah, whatever. I'm never right anyway. So whatever you say.
I'm gonna be like you, man. I'm gonna find the love of my life in my 50s.
Oh, good luck.
Good luck. All right.
Never perfect. It's never perfect.
Oh, it's never, is it?
But you got to look at it like, you deal. You get something that you work with, and then when you have the clashes, I tell you, my wife and I, we will have fights. But I tell you, like 5 minutes afterwards, it's just like, fuck it, not even worth pounding away at it. Things that used to seem so important in my 30s, we got to discuss this. We got to get this straightened out. Now it's just like, I don't even know what the fuck we're talking about. Whatever.
We forgot. That way. We both forgot. That's cool.
We just both forgot what it was. What do you want to eat?
Yeah. All right. So let's move it on. Number 6.
Well, I would say that there's a pharmaceutical component to that. And that's something that, you and I have talked so much about this because we were involved in that aspect of it. And for people that don't know, I mean, back in 1998, I wrote an article called Steroids for Health, where I felt that tiny bits of steroids for very short cycles, and this is still a controversy, can actually be health enhancing. But of course, most people overdo steroids or do steroids that are more damaging, and that kind of gets mixed in with the whole thing. But I still do believe that small amounts of anabolics can be better. And I'm at the point now, because I'm on HRT. So I have my testosterone replacement, and I wouldn't do cycles, but every now and then I just kind of like enhance my TRT with a little Primabol or a little bit of this. And these peptides are very interesting. I'm not crazy about a lot of peptides, but there are a few that are very interesting, and SARMs. And I think you could do little bits of these things to make you stronger, help in your training, help in your advancement, help in your recovery, and not overdo it to the point where now you're damaging your body. And it especially with the American media, everything is like all one way or the other. It's just, to me, I look at it like drinking. You have a beer once or twice a week. That's not going to hurt you at all. But if you have 10 beers a day, it's going to. And I feel the same way about steroids. I think steroids could be very health enhancing, but the dose and duration is absolutely imperative as to how you use them.
Yeah. I mean, my thinking on steroids nowadays, and it's changed a lot. your steroids for health book, that was back in 2001, man, right?
Well, the original article appeared in T-Mag, the T
Yeah, T-Mag is about
testosterone. Yeah, that was, I think, 98, 99.
1999 is, I think it was, I was a kid. I was 19 years old at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
At the time that you wrote that article, and that was around the time that I started researching steroids. I was a kid. It's kind of, some of your articles are kind of what brought me on this path that I'm on today. At that time, you remember that everything and anything, and the only thing you can get were human grade, pharmaceutically approved made steroids, or if you want, if you wanted to, you could also get some veterinarian Mexican stuff. But this was all made in regulated labs. What we have
Well, the
nowadays,
scene back then, there were ripoffs. There were definitely ripoffs.
oh, there were
Like
bootlegs,
the
but
back
there
of
were bootlegs.
magazines where they sent you, saccharin tablets or something.
Yeah, there were bootlegs, but I tell you what, though, there were bootlegs, but people weren't buying underground,
You
unregistered
weren't buying
brands on
it to the
purpose.
same degree. No, back
Nope.
then it was like there was a certain places you could go and certain people who you had to know, and they had the real shit, the Chiba Dynaball and all the pharmaceutical grade stuff, and it was certainly a notch above. You could get a prescription, get a prescription from the
Yeah,
doctor. Doctor, I want to
yeah.
put on a few pounds. Oh, here's some Dynabol. I mean, it was really thought of, because the dosages, this is the thing that people don't realize, the dosages were low. Everybody says, for example, Anavar. Anavar is not liver toxic. Yeah, well, the daily dose is 5 milligrams. And 5 milligrams is not toxic, but if you're taking 50 milligrams, who are you kidding? Don't kid yourself. So that's the way I look at it. I think any amount you take is an advantage. I mean, if you took 100 milligrams of Primabol in a week, which is nothing, at the end of the year, won't you still have made better gains than if you didn't take it? So that's how I look at it. I look at it like this is just a little bit of an extra advantage to make you stronger, more muscular, and healthier. Why abuse it? Why abuse it? Why take a toxic steroid so you could, be jacked? I mean, that's ego. I mean, look at Sean Roden. Sean Roden, to me, was like the epitome of physical perfection. And then 3 months after the Olympia, he looks like a fat, out of shape fuck. And then a year later, he's dead. So what fucking good did Trend do him? I go old school. I think a lot of old guys, and I put myself in that category. I mean, I wasn't a bodybuilding champion back then, but a lot of the guys who were, wound up looking good into their 50s, 60s, and 70s. But you get somebody like Dave Palumbo, who was a monster, and you look at him now, and he kind of looks like a sick old man. So I think that's where it comes into dosage, duration, and the proper use, and the proper drugs to use if you're going to use anabolics to enhance health and longevity.
Where I'm coming from nowadays with anabolics really is this underground black market.
We have to.
It used to be, it wasn't as bad before the Beijing Olympics. After the Beijing Olympics, the Chinese locally started shutting down production of steroids. So the only manufacturers of steroids after the Beijing Olympics have been underground labs. And a lot of times they'll be making a lot of these underground old school bodybuilding steroids. They'll be making them in some of the same machinery or even next to where they're making, industrial lubricants or pesticides or things like that.
You never know.
And now, because the steroids are no longer really being made for the black market by the top pharmaceutical companies in China. The top pharmaceutical companies in China are still making the testosterone for Organon and for the compounding pharmacies because they can show a custody of who they're selling it to. But they're not making the stuff in the underground labs. The underground lab stuff comes from other underground labs now, not like before the Beijing Olympics. So today, man,
it could be anything.
Yeah, I'm really today. I get real nervous of sending money away for some guy to send me juice from God knows where. It could have the steroids I'm trying to get, but it'll be contaminated with other stuff. I think today either I get my hands on some human grade stuff, human grade gear, maybe approved veterinarian gear, or I'll just run pro hormone cycles, vintage muscle stuff. I've been doing a lot more pro hormone cycles now with vintage muscles the last couple of years. And mainly it just had a lot to do with all of the dirty, nasty, black market shit out there,
Yeah, I don't
full of
blame you.
heavy metals.
And you can't trust the message boards because who the hell is in control of them? I mean, I found that there were a couple of underground labs that seemed to be somewhat reliable, but I know what you're saying. You just never really know what you're doing. And on that note, I wanted to make up a point that this is something that if I was really involved in the steroid scene, I would bring up, which people would hate me for because I have controversial opinions. But I think if you do 4 or 5 heavy cycles, like 16 weeks. I've never done a 16 weeks. I've never gone over 6 weeks. But if you do like 4 or 5 16-week cycles, don't even bother with PCT. You're never going to recover. It's never going to be back to where it was. So you might as well just go on HRT and then do mild amounts of steroids to enhance. That's just a theory of mine. People might disagree with that. But and yeah, and I don't like anything vet because vet they're not really tested on humans. Although Winstrol is the same exact drug, whether it's vet or human. But even EQ, I talked to Dylan about this, and he says the same thing. EQ makes me feel weird. I don't know what it is about EQ. I'm a Primo guy. I think Primo's maybe the best of the bunch and relatively safe. But this is serious stuff, and like you're saying, yeah, I mean, you really don't even know what you're getting half the time. So this is not something that anybody should venture into lightly. And I'm not saying that to play the boogeyman. I'm saying that as somebody who has used it and does see advantages to using it, but please be careful. And as you say, things like vintage muscle, supplements, peptides, SARMs, there are options out there which are pretty damn good these days.
Yeah, I mean, when you get something from Vintage Muscle, they have a registered facility that is basically a GMP, good manufacturing practices facility. All of the raw materials are tested when they come in for potency, for heavy metals, for contamination, and the finished product is tested for potency, for contamination, the way it should be. When you get the stuff in the mail and you put it in your body, you can be assured you're getting 100% what you paid for. The product's always going to be clean. It's always going to be legit. And you're really getting what you paid for. Not so. You just have no clue if you're buying something from some dude in the locker room, or even sending money away, Western Union and all this shit, sending money away.
Oh, yeah, I know.
To get
I found the guys in the locker room are the least trustworthy.
and you know what they're doing nowadays? Because people no longer have a way of verifying legitimate steroids like you and I did back in the day. They'll actually take, some dirty Deca. They'll mix dirty Deca. They'll put it into vials, into ampules, put a little paper on it and make it look like it's a legitimate human grade brand. And it's not like when you and I were on the forums back in the 2000s, there were a lot of resources to figure out if your shit was fake or not. Nowadays, since human grade gear is almost non-existent in the marketplace, it's real easy for these guys to now make, Norma Hellas and make Primo Bolins and try to make it look like the legit stuff. And it's just, there's some good ways to know if shit's bunk or not, but man, the steroid market, in my opinion, is ruined. I think the only thing guys like you and I have left, that we're just trying to look with our shirt off. We're trying to make better progress than natural. We're trying to keep our dicks up every morning, no matter if we're 50, 60, 70, right? Using something like Vintage Muscle, the pro hormones, 1-DHEA, the 5-OHPs, the 19 NORs. It's just a good way to get an edge, get better than natural edge, and not really have to fucking risk life and limb injecting black market shit. That if we were in the year 1999, Nelson, it'd be great to get a bunch of human grade stuff. We would get Organon, we'd get Norma Hellas, we'd get Zambones. Remember Zambones back? Yeah. Remember those Primo Bolin amps, how cheap they used to be back in 2000, 2001? Well, all that stuff is pretty much gone. I don't think
that's not around anymore. I hate to even give anybody ideas, but it would be easy to fake Primo Bolin. If you were to get okay, let's just use one vial, for example. If you had a vial that was a quarter of Primo and a quarter of EQ and a teeny bit of test and the rest was oil, most people wouldn't know. It'd be relatively mild. You get pretty dry gains, and people would think like, oh, that's Primo Bolin, but it's not Primo Bolin. And now an experienced Primo Bolin user would know that, But to somebody who didn't know any better, they'd be like, oh yeah, I'm making gains. I'm not getting any side effects. This stuff is great. So,
oh yeah, they'll take the cheaper steroids like Diana, like Deca per se, like EQ. They'll do a little, a small mix and sell it to you as primobolan.
yeah,
You think you're paying for 100 megs of primobolan, and you're really getting, 50
you're getting
meg,
20 megs of test.
50 megs of a 50 megs of EQ and nandrolone or something crazy like that. And now what they do for Winstrol and Anabar tablets, they actually change. They use turinabol. They use turinabol to actually because it's so much cheaper. And it also doesn't aromatize. So
and yeah, Turinabol basically, it's a good. I always thought of Turinabol as a combination of D-bol and Anavar. It's just, it's hits hard, but it's not real estrogenic. It's not gonna aromatize. I mean, a slight aromatase.
They'll take that cheaper steroid and put it into tablets.
Oh yeah, 5 mgs of Turinabol could be sold for 2 mgs of Winstrol.
Yeah. And people think they're getting it, and you're not getting what you're paid for. You're not. These is when you shop, obviously, with the black market individuals where they don't have to verify shit, bro. And nobody's testing. Nobody really's testing their stuff. It's a few $100 to get a real legitimate test that'll tell you what's in that stuff. And nobody does that on the buyer end. So best thing, man, if you're a professional and you're competing, you probably have a really good hookup through your coach or something. But if you're a regular guy just trying to look good with your shirt off, trying to make some better than natural gains without getting in trouble, without toxicity, a vintage muscle, over the counter, bona fide, registered, verified USA company. That's the best way to go, in my opinion. And with that, I'm going to get us to the last point of the night. Number 7. What is the number 7? A piece of advice, another one to just grow, keep staying strong, keep staying sexy as we get older. What else?
Oh, I thought we actually ran through the whole gamut. Well, what else would it be? You know what? I think maybe it's going to sound oversimplistic, but keeping all those things in balance. Just knowing that you have to do this every day. I mean, every day is really a chance to be better. And don't let anything slide. Don't be like, today I didn't take my vitamins, or today I ate kind of crappy, today I missed the gym. Consistency is the big thing. It's funny, we did a podcast a while back and we were talking about how often everybody trained, and I remember Dylan saying he trains twice a week and he trains real hard. And I don't believe in beating the body up like that. I train 5 days a week, but I only train maybe a half an hour. And one of the advantages of that is it's a habit. I know I go in there, I activate the muscles, I come out, I did my work. I didn't kill myself, but I used my body, I got my breathing going. And I think that's the best thing to do, because especially as you start getting older, you let a few days slide and then the work piles up and then you catch a cold. And before you know it, it's 2 weeks before you went to the gym. It's hard to get back. And you want to avoid that. You don't want to start getting sloppy. It's easier to stay on top of things than to get sloppy and try to wake your way up. It's better to stay fit than to get fat and then have to lose the weight. So that would be my number 7. Just be consistent with everything. And that ultimately makes it easier.
I mean, consistency, mental fortitude. These are the things that good lifestyle is made of. Staying consistent, staying disciplined. I like that a lot. I think that, having a balance between everything, between work and play, between training and rest. You make the progress when you're resting. You got to give your body
the stimulus. Enough sleep. That's a good one too. Yeah.
Get enough sleep. And to that, I'm gonna add my own kind of on the 7th, or I guess the 8th, 7.5, because I wanted to discuss this one with you a little bit, because it's really important. When you see health conditions arise, when you see things that are a warning sign, head that shit off right now.
Yeah.
Get on it. Get on that shit right away. Yeah. You see a little lump somewhere, get it checked out. You feel a little something weird and comes back, get that shit checked out. Google that shit. You see a weird coloring, you see this poop in your stool, weird color, fucking pee, everything. Just track that shit.
If you're bleeding anywhere, you better get your ass to a doctor.
You better get your ass to a fucking doctor. One of the things that I now, man, and I'm ashamed to admit this because I'm a health guy. One of the things that I'm now, and I've last couple of years, I've really been taking care of that I wasn't doing for a while was that fucking sleep apnea. You know, nothing will
Yeah.
silently shave decades from your life of
Yeah, I
the,
got
like
it
sleep
too.
apnea will. And people will ignore sleep apnea. I remember back when it was really bad, I used to fight sleep. I used to fight death in my sleep every day.
Do you
Not,
wear
and I
the
fucking win.
mask or
I actually, I have a different wind down routine. I lost a good bit of weight because one of the reasons was I was too bulky. I
if you're
lost a good bit of
bloated
weight.
or heavy? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's worse.
I changed my pillow. I now have one of those pillows that are made of those Japanese little beans. It's a really hard pillow. So I use a soft memory foam pillow, and I use a hard bean pillow on top of that.
I had it too. There were times I would wake up and I couldn't breathe. I thought that this is it. I'm going to choke to death. What helped me is also high pillows, keeping my head elevated, and I do have to sleep on my side. If I sleep on my back, it'll get me.
Oh yeah, I have to sleep on my side. I have to sleep.
It's always falling asleep for some reason. I mean, I've woken up in the middle of the night on my back and I'm fine. But if I fall asleep like that 5 minutes after you go to sleep on my back, I don't know what it is. It's like the saliva just blocks the back of my throat and I start choking. It's horrible, horrible feeling.
I'll tell you what, man. I had to a side sleeper. I changed my pillow. I didn't want to get the machine and have to sleep with it. I mean, that would just ruin. Yeah, I mean, especially if you have a wifey, you know, it's just not. You want to put anybody else. It's not sexy at all, man. But yeah, nipping it in the butt, taking care of it early on, everything. You know, there's a lot of conditions that are detrimental and we don't even know about. Taking care of your teeth. You know, if you have cavities, things like that, some of those infections can migrate down to your heart and places like that. It's a lot of
a sort of tenet that I have is I always believe in taking the natural route whenever possible. And I do think that we could make ourselves healthy and prevent a lot of illness with proper nutrition and supplementation and exercise. But there are times you need a drug. There are times you need a surgery. There are times you need a doctor. Dan Duchaine told me, for audience members who might know who he was, he said, we started thinking the medical profession was wrong about so many things. We started thinking they were wrong about everything. They're not wrong about everything. They know quite a bit. And sometimes you really don't be afraid to get the advice of a doctor, and don't be afraid of getting a second opinion. If something is wrong, get it checked out and make sure you get it corrected.
Yeah, nip it in the butt. Your posture, digestive issues.
Yep.
You know, these are all things that you don't nip them in the butt on time, they'll continue to just get worse, progressively worse and worse and worse. So that is I guess I could, to all the things you've said, I could add that. Stay grown and sexy. Make sure you nip it all in the butt. So, Mr. Montana, can you tell people how they can reach you if they want personal consultations, if they want to ask you questions, if they want some of your books that you've published throughout the years? What's the best way to get in contact?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, but you know what? I give people my email, which is nelsonmontana1234@gmail. You have a question, you're interested in consultations, just drop me an email. It's real old school, and we'll be in touch and work it out from there.
That's incredible. That sounds great. Everybody out there, you know how to reach Mr. Montana. Hey, Nelson, thank you again for your time, man. You've been incredible all these years, ever since I was a
we go back too long.
Brother. I mean, I used to help sell your book in the affiliate program, Elite Fitness, back in 2004. I was 24. I mean, you've always been a good friend, great guy. Now I'm 42 and we're still here doing content together, doing things together, man. And hopefully it'll continue for many, many more years to come, my friend. So
yeah, well, let's do some more. It's just the beginning.
Just the beginning. All right, guys, everybody out there in the vintage muscle community, this is Mr. Nelson Montana. Thank you guys for your time. I'll see you guys next week. Have a good one, Nelson.
Later.
Have a good one.